Any discussion on this, you guys?
Phyllis?
Hi, Phyllis.
No discussion. Call the question.
No, okay. Those in favor of task order 4, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Task order 4 will be signed tomorrow and shipped out to Great West Engineering and get that off of our desk and onto your desk, so you can go from there. Truly tonight in our new realm of things is set up for us to a work meeting where we can talk about things with you guys, the public, the council members, look at what we're trying to accomplish down the road a little bit. They're not truly action items, but at this point, at some point in time, they will be. But tonight's main discussion will be about crafting an ordinance on urban decay. And no matter what we do, how we do it, it's going to be a dicey issue. We're going to have people that are adamantly for it and vehemently against it. We've looked at several from different municipalities throughout Montana, Superior, Terry, things like that. And we've looked at some of the larger cities like Great Falls, Billings, and Helena. I tend to lean towards what the bigger cities are doing. And I don't say that because the bigger cities are better, but I say that because the bigger cities have more staff, more legal people on staff to research these things and have better standing and better understanding of what's going on out there. Helena's is available to us through Sterling Codifiers. So if you go to our website, the Choteau City of Choteau's website, and go to city code, there's a line that asks to see other cities' codes. You could put in Helena, and Title 7 of Helena is their community decay ordinances. And I would think that we would be better off mimicking or working off of that. I'm not saying that everything in Superior is bad, but I think we could probably muse something together between the two and come up with a very good plan for the city of Choteau.
I think Helena took much of the burden of enforcement off of the city office.
Yes.
Which is what I like.
Yes.
I want to task them with that.
And Lord knows that the city office has enough to enforce as is without piling more onto it.
So just as a point of order, maybe in this conversation on this item, what are our sideboards in terms of discussion on an urban decay ordinance? Is that, do we hold that specific discussion off for a future time? Is this more of a procedural question? What are we looking at right now?
We're looking at laying out an ordinance, how we would want to draft it, and not necessarily language quite yet, but how many issues do you want to address in this one ordinance?
Okay.
Helena's has 7 different subtopics with roughly 30 different paragraphs. So you have an intent, the definitions, your prohibitions, then they jump into abandoned and junk vehicles. They do screening, they do mitigation. And the mitigation one is by far the longest. It goes from subletter A through I, and several of them have things underneath them. And then the last one is severability. What I would ask of you guys as council members, and I would ask of the public who's here, to bring to us a list of what you consider urban decay to be. So that we can sit down and as we get ready to craft this and take it to the public to view and work on, we will have an idea of what urban decay is in the face of the community as well as us. Somebody might ask you what's urban decay, and I would tell you, I can't describe it, but you'll know it when you see it, when you drive by someplace. Currently, we have nothing on the books.
Say that we have no way to even deal with.
We don't.
Buildings that should be condemned, we have no way to really deal with that.
Right.
Well,
we do kind of, but
we kind of, but we've
dicey.
never pressed that because it has to go to the fire department, and the fire department would have to declare the building unfit, and then it would have to go to the sanitarian to go through those hoops. So,
But in terms of the really obvious
we don't.
issues, we have no means of really dealing with
No,
it right now.
we do not.
I think the reason I kind of started on this path was because when you looked at a couple other communities around us that had something on the books and actually tried to move forward to enforcement, it was unenforceable because it was not
Mhm.
legal.
Mhm.
And so really, when I started this, I wanted to have it defined, and I wanted it something that both our attorney and our insurance was going to say, yes,
Mhm.
that's legally defensible. You can, this works within the parameters of what the law can and can't do,
Yes.
the ordinance can and can't do with the
Yes.
law. So that's where I was headed when I started this.
And we know that urban decay has a direct effect on the valuation in the eyes of our community when people drive into it. I mean, I can look out here and Phyllis is a realtor. There are homes for sale and people next door that those homes have become more and more difficult to sell. And rather than, I think that person's only remedy these days would be to go to civil court. There's got to be a way that we as a community can work together to find a way to clean some of this stuff up. As we go forward, as I challenge you guys to come up with your lists, would you all like Jody to send you a copy of Helena's ordinances and the town of Superior's and the town of Terry's?
Mhm.
Those were the three that we went through the most. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
I will
useful.
get those to Jody in the morning. As we look through what Helena says, the purpose of the chapter and their definitions is public view is the one definition they have. And they define what public view is. Any area visible from a point of up to 6 feet above the surface of the center of a public roadway or right of way. So I'm guessing if you're standing in the middle of a road and you're 6 feet tall, anything you can see would be considered urban decay.
Well, viewable.
Viewable, yes. They're very, very specific in Helena what you can and cannot do. They talk about accumulations of products, storing and accumulations of metals, other salvage materials, wrecked, ruined bikes, lawnmowers, things along those lines, buildings that are dilapidated, any condition that is being, infested by vermin, mosquitoes, or threatens or endangers. They've done what I believe to be the homework. They address abandoned and junk vehicles under their own title or under their own chapter. They have a screening process by which you have to be screened off in order to keep it from being visible to the public. There's some mitigation that could be accomplished through here. And that one, the mitigation, like I said, is by far the longest. And then it goes back to severability in case it were to be held invalid in that. As we look at this, and we get this to Jody and out to you guys tomorrow, what would you like for a timeline to have back? So if we have our next work schedule meeting is scheduled for October 20th,
Give us a month through.
it gives us about 5 weeks.
And I think what me speaking for myself, I want to have my input. But my greater concern is, I can have all kinds of input and then our attorney or our insurance is like, yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I want our input and I want my input as part of it, but I'm more concerned with making it something that's worth passing as an ordinance.
Yeah. And from the public, we would want you guys' input. And I know Mel will address that in her write-up of our meeting. But if you've got input out there that you want, you can get it to the city office or you can email it. And I'm going to give them your email address to mmajor@choteaumt.org. And he can put it together in his file. And I would ask that each individual council member and the members of the public put their stuff together, get it to us so that we can have it ready to readjust on the 20th and possibly start crafting language so we could have a public hearing in November and possibly have an ordinance on the books by first of the year. Okay? That asking too much?
No, I don't think so at all.
Timeline.
Something a question that kind of just sticks in the back of my head that I don't think we need to answer tonight, but maybe from Jeff or whomever, a question of what stands as grandfathered? Are we going to have grandfathered properties or anything like that?
That's a good question, and I will.
So, yeah, I don't think
I'll
we
raise
should
it to him.
Yeah.
As to about grandfathering. That's always the sticky wicket.
Mm.
I think when you're talking about building codes, that is tough because it's like, well,
Yeah, well, that's
let's
it.
say we know no aluminum siding or something. Well, it's hard to go to 10 homes and be like, yeah, we can't do this. You gotta fix
Right.
it.
You gotta pay, you gotta put out of pocket.
But something like this, I feel like, you've already depreciated neighbors' property values.
Mhm.
It's something we can go and say, you kind of have a minimum in your
Yes.
bullet right now. And it's
Well,
this and this and this.
So what if somebody buys one of those properties? Do they have a timeline or do they have to fix it now?
I think that's
Right.
something.
And I mean, and
Yeah, I think
that's
we
one of the
need to-
concerns I have, like, and that would be grandfathering is, if,
My guess is if somebody's gonna buy a fixer-upper, they're gonna fix it up right away rather than,
Well, and the
I'm
other-
gonna say,
always.
Yeah, not
No,
always.
no,
Sometimes it's
Well,
just a
the
hold
other
on.
part of it is, let's say that I don't have any siding on my house and it's September.
Yep.
We've got to have some allowance to say, hey, by June it needs to be done. We get that you're not going to be out there in January trying to put up siding.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I don't know that,
and there's some,
well, but I think what we're talking about is the houses that haven't had siding for 10 years.
yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
And that's why you said everyone knows it when they see it, but it's hard to describe. That's going to be the difficulty is describing what those parameters are.
Phyllis, what did you start to
Well,
say?
I was gonna say that if somebody buys a house like that, that's a fixer-upper, if you had some kind of permit or something that they had to come and fill out, then I would think that permit would give them a timeline. Or you could attach whatever you're doing to that property and say, when it sells, the new owner has this much time to bring it up to our standards.
To standards,
The previous owner was grandfathered, but the new owner
but not.
Okay,
and you will have this much time to get your work done. We expect you.
Phyllis, do you suppose the Montana,
We as realtors, the realtors in this town should know that. Too.
would the Realtor Association, would Montana Realtors have some kind of lingo like that? You suppose that have you ever seen anything like that in a buy-sell?
I haven't.
Okay,
No, but they'd be good. They don't have an executive director right now, but they'd be
Yeah.
a good group to reach out
I
to.
think it's up to each individual city ordinance to either condemn a property
okay.
or, say, this is substandard, this property is a substandard property, and whoever buys it will have this much time to bring it up to. our
Okay. And I will ask building, the guy, Tom,
Harlan.
no, not Kyle, Tom, our gentleman who does all of the permits, he and I will have a conversation tomorrow about when it comes to remodeling. I don't know, Mike, do you know offhand what, if I buy a house and I'm gonna remodel it but make no huge additions or anything like that, do I have to have a permit? Okay,
Even for inside work, even inside the building.
I don't believe inside. Exterior work, roofs, fences, things like that, garages, yes. I don't know about interior work.
I don't
That
believe
would be
so.
good to know.
And I will have an answer for that.
If you're changing it like in kind. If you're replacing siding with siding. You're replacing a deck with a deck. If you expand the deck and make it bigger.
You
need a
have to,
permit.
yeah.
If it's the same square footage, you don't need a permit.
Exterior.
But interior is the same, and knocking on a wall and adding an addition, or, anything you do interior is. you
That's,
don't
I
need
didn't think
permit.
so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't think so.
Oh, I'll verify that.
Actually, Chris, this is Jody. If they start moving like walls, sometimes then they would have to have a permit depending on if it's, depending on circumstances.
Thank you. And
Thanks,
thank Bo.
Jody.
Thank Bo for her 2 cents worth. So I think it's something we need, and I hate to say that a city needs more ordinances, but I believe we're at the point in time where we do need something like this. So I'll get everything together and have Jody get it out to you guys individually, so we don't have any issues there.
Thank you.
Reports. First one up to bat tonight is our friends at the sheriff's office, and thank you, Devin, for putting together a report for us. And you feel free to run them 30 days like you did. 1-1 to run the previous 30 days and you're fine. You don't have to go mid-month to mid-month. And that works better for us. We had 5 citations, 4 arrests, and a total of 75 calls in Choteau, in addition to the above listed ones ranging from traffic accidents, traffic stops, officers' requests, and others. I like this style, this format, very simple, very, very self-explanatory. So thank you for putting that together for us, Devin. From the city courts, there were, as you can see, there was 2 cases disposed and 3 pending, and this is from Judge Rasmussen at City Justice of the Peace. And there was $1,040 in income from 8 payees over the last 30 days. Public Works Director, in your packets, you didn't get the big one? Mike, you have these? Do you have these? Okay.
They're in the email.
Okay. So it's interesting, and Mike and I have had a conversation. We've gone from in January, we had 69% loss to a 45% loss last month, and it's tough to correlate because we know. But if you look at ones that stick out to me is July and August. In July, we pumped 16.5 million gallons, water produced or purchased, and we lost 8.5 million. In August, we pumped 18.5 million and lost only 8.2, so our loss was down. But as I'm figuring out with Mike, and you're the plumber there, Councilman Howard, when we fix a leak, it creates additional pressure in the lines. And so if there's a weak spot someplace else, we're actually creating other problems. So we're kind of like a dog chasing its tail in circles right now. But we're making progress, as you can see. And we believe we have tracked down another fairly large leak on the southwest side of town. And probably next week, we'll be looking into it, depending upon how things go. Yeah. But
this is naturally the time of year where usage goes down.
it should be, yes, as things start cooling off and there's less watering. But as we do it, it looks like we could affect upwards of 30 homes without water while we get that repaired. And I know Mike said they're going to try and fix some valves while they're doing it, so that in the event something like that happens again, it cuts down significantly the number of homes that would be impacted. We do have a list of all the homes. It took us a better part of the day to get everybody tracked down. And as we know, when Mike and the guys get ready to go, we'll call people 24 hours before and let them know. I'll have a picture of the affected area up on our Facebook page, letting people know as well. So many of you know, as you look at our COVID report, the dots went up, not down. So
my question on that is, let's say I had COVID in June. How long will that show up in this sample, do you know?
No, I don't know exactly that answer, but I know that we turned stuff over real quick in Choteau, and it doesn't linger in the system.
Yeah.
We have a lot of flow.
I hear you.
yeah,
I was just more curious how long do the antibodies stay in a person?
It's not permanent. I do know that,
Yeah.
but I don't know how long.
and you know, I had a conversation with Mel about this, and the other day there's 10 campers parked over there at the RV dump, and who knows where those campers
Driving
are
and
from?
stopping at the gas
You know,
station or-
the gas station, the stage stop, all of that plays into it.
Hard to-
It's hard to figure out, but I would venture to guess, and Mike and I've had this conversation, as Jody and Tom and I have, next month might be interesting. We would think it would go down as traffic goes down and that stuff goes down, but
But I mean, way back in March, it was, or April, it was what's gonna work through the population.
yep.
Depending on how long those antibodies stay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Mike, you got anything else for us? Okay,
Thanks, Mike.
from
Just-
Jody. Oh, yes, Mel.
I just want to correct, Mark, this sewage testing of the water, it doesn't measure antibodies in the water. It measures viral copies of the viral genome that are being shed by the body as it goes through being sick. So they're not antibodies, they're the virus that you're shedding as you're sick with COVID, whether you're symptomatic or not. It's not the right word. They're not antibodies. They're viral RNA genome copies. Just FYI.
Do you know SPs in a person's system?
I do not know how long you shed viral RNA when you're sick with COVID. No. I do know that when you are recovering from COVID, at some point you will test negative for the presence of those viral RNA copies in your system. So you do get over it at some point, and when you get over it, you're considered no longer contagious. And that's anywhere from, for most people, from 10 to 14 days. But Melissa Moyer could probably answer that question. I can't answer that for sure. But it is viral RNA copies, not antibodies.
And Mel reached out to the people on the phone and had a long conversation, and she talked to the guys down at MSU. Go Cats! Sorry, Mel, had to do that.
That's okay.
From Jody's desk, budget is passed, fall budget report to the state by October 1st. She is diligently working on that. We'll work out the fiscal closing 2020 documents and completing that annual report. Been very busy with several zoning and building permits this month, along with his regular duties as Tom has. And Colin Leitner's been assisting Tom with the ongoing inspections. Colin's out on the street in the day-to-day, so he picks up stuff that we can bring back to City Hall, follow up on, and go from there. And Tracy is diligently getting caught up and trying to keep ahead of everything we're putting on her plate. We're trying to move things around as best we can so that Jody has less to go to Tom. Tom can go and make things a little more interchangeable amongst the office staff. So that's where we're at with the City Hall. From the city attorney, I'm going to go there because it's not on our list. On the civil side, has had several conversations with the mayor and staff regarding the Baumgartner property encroachment matter and that process moving forward. We'd asked Mr. Baumgartner to have that off of his property by the 17th. He's responded that he will not do that. So we will go to court, order to direct the removal of the encroachment and get the fixes that we need to get done taken care of that way. I have no idea how long that process will take. But by doing it that way, we get civil protection from him being able to sue the city if we were to damage one of those bricks. Consulted with us and the staff about a recent inquiry regarding requirements and processes for annexation and connection to city water and wastewater services. We had some inquiries about some land to the west of 10th Avenue, Northwest, being annexed into the city and what it would curtail and what we would ask from the city side in order to do that. So we put that together and sent that back to the engineers to pass on to the owners and to the people involved with that. As he mentioned in his report, Jeff says he's taken a look at the community decay ordinances and grounded up by Councilman Major and believe that's the discussion we'll be having tonight. And consulted with the mayor and the finance office regarding separate operational issues, including agenda language on the public comment, payroll withholding, and cultural review requirements for proposed wastewater rehabilitation projects. And I'll walk through those things with you when I get to my report. Okay. Tom, I'm going to bring you on board quick like to go through building and zoning.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions below as what's on here? For the public that's here, there's Ben Stolfus with 15 9th Avenue Northeast with a foundation and a modular home. Russ Morehouse is putting up a fence at a rental and 2nd Avenue Southwest. Benefits Hospital did their parking lot repairs and are doing some fencing on the west side of their facility. John and Billy Morris are putting up a fence on 1st Street Southwest. Ron Thompson, storage shed. Mark Allum over on 7th Southeast is putting up a pole barn. Sally Jensen up on the hill on Rice Avenue is doing a concrete sidewalk and a driveway. Tom and Connie Rogers are putting up a fence, and Frank Bell has broke ground on his new home over on 5th Avenue Southwest. Correct, Tom?
Yep. Sounds like about it. There are more in addition for the next month.
Yeah. We do have more people that have permits out, but we do not have them back yet to get processed. So again, if, like I say, with the city crews out there, if they see something, they bring it back to us, we get on it and get it checked out in a rapid fashion. Thank you, Tom.
Mhm.
Councilman Major, the Major report.
Just glad we're talking about the urban decay. I know I talked about it in June of last year, and it didn't really go anywhere. Then in spring of this year, started again. And so I appreciate the timeline. Everything gets us where we need to be without saying, "Oh, let's address it in the spring."
Nope.
do appreciate
I want to be
that.
ready come spring.
Other than that, you know, I ask this question about once a month, but I'm wondering if, with the railroad crossings by Rex, is it?
I stay on them.
Okay,
Mia and I have regular phone calls,
okay.
and I remind her I don't want to have to go back to my personal Facebook message page and flood the phone lines again.
And this is just rumor, but until they start using those lines, they aren't gonna do anything with them.
Okay.
That was a question I posed to them. If the lines aren't going to be used, would they please remove them? And we've had crickets.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Councilman Howard.
I'm still working on the EDA assessment. The city, I've identified so far 13 facilities to address.
Okay.
Not all of them need it, we just do address and explain if they do or don't, or if they have or have not. If we will or we won't, so I'm still down that path. And then I do have a.
Give us our fire department report. Yep.
So we've had, this is just for a 2-week report. Chief Passmore already turned them into the fire marshal, so I wasn't able to get copies of those. So in the last 2 weeks, we've had 5 calls. Baylor, 1 equipment fire, a vehicle accident, vehicle fire on Highway 220, power line at the visitor center, and then we had to assist with Fairfield yesterday on a wildland fire.
So basically inside the city limits, just one?
Inside the city limits, 2. I had a
2.
vehicle wrecked right on the.
Oh, at the
four-way
stoplight and then the transformer. Okay.
That's it.
And that was right after Northwestern Energy been working, wasn't it? The transformer?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, I think it was too.
Yeah, we were working down on the Legion's lot.
Yep. Councilman Doyakis.
So to your point on the railroad question, they do have a new public relations person. I
He's
saw
the
that
same
in-
guy. They're
It's the
just
same
they're
guy?
just bragging him out in a dog and pony show.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I talked to him last time because
Okay.
Tim Fox put me in touch with him.
So we had crafting ordinances on the discussion, and I'm just curious in terms of revamping the city code, where are we on that process? We've been talking about that for a little while too.
The Sterling Codifiers has our code still, and they said it would take 6 months, so we're expecting October before they'd have something back to
Okay.
us. And I would tell you guys as council members and the public, if you find an ordinance out there that you don't like, or would like to see changed, print it off, scribble your changes on it, and bring it to the city hall. There's a box on my desk that says ordinances to be changed, gone away with. There's a big note in there that says, dump these, go back to the old. And we're not going to point at anybody who said that, but nonetheless, it's there because they were easier to get along with. But there's some in there, and as I get time, and they come up at the weirdest times. If you find something you don't like, print it off, throw it in, get it down to some, we'll put it in the box.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Councilman Merja.
I'm gonna kick a dead horse here. I've had several people ask me when their pickets are gonna go up at the playground that they bought. And I know it's a sore subject. I know it kind of got shoved around, but that there was quite a bit of donation for that. And it's been a year, and even with COVID, it was 6 months. So it's,
I will tell you that what I've learned being mayor, that the donations that were given were spent elsewise on the thing. So when it comes to those pickets and such, we from the city are going to have to find a way to pay for it out of our budget to make up for that. It's
Is there a chair for that committee right now? For the group that kind of spurred that?
I don't know if there's,
I have no idea.
Okay. Just curious. I know there was a few people that were involved, but I don't know if they have actively have someone sort of manning the post.
I don't believe they do, but it's been brought up to us and we are aware of it, and
Okay.
it pops up and it gets, it's one of those things on your desk you move around, but I'll make sure it makes it to a point, stops and gets taken care of.
Thank you.
Because we're
Chris?
gonna,
Sorry. This is Jody again. We did budget some money in parks to buy the bench that was actually donated by Ekrans, and then also to do something with the pickets. you know, I'm not exactly sure what the plan was, but there is money budgeted within parks to do something. We've, you know, after it was brought to Chris's attention.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Jody. I was trying to say that, I just couldn't get my words to work.
Um, I think for me-
All right, from the mayor's desk, we got an LOR foundation grant for $1,000. An LOR, it's an Instagrant thing, and we are going to use these funds to advertise for census. We need better census turnout. And that's what these dollars are specifically designed for. It's $1,000. It's being run through the Teton County Development Committee. And we're going to use it to target 59422 as a zip code to get more census completed. We're lagging.
Wait,
We know what was it?
I want to say mid 50s. Yellowstone County is the highest at close to 80. These are dollars that would come, you know, come in handy. So we applied for this last Wednesday and we got a copy of it on Sunday, showed up. I don't believe Jody sent you all of this stuff, but this is my mayoral correspondence. And this is stuff that is entered into the record. These are letters that I've written to, whether it be dog problems, chicken problems, urban decay issues, things like that. And I hate to say it, but I'm doing these in writing because I'm tired of people twisting what people say. It's here, it's in black and white, it's on the record. If you have questions about it, you can come look at the letters. But the people that camped in the park too long, I didn't, so it was addressed to whom it may concern. Ed's letter about the wall. A thank you note to the stage stop for cleaning up the brush behind their facility. A thank you note, there's letters entered to the Buck Boys about cleaning up next to Bucks. There's a thank you note for getting to where they're at and such. There's letters to folks that were pointed out to me that they believe were speeding in the alleyways and using alleyways, things like that. There's letters to gentlemen about his utilities and stuff like that. So these letters are in the mayor's correspondence file at City Hall and are available to the public. So if someone, you know, I got yelled at for sending one out, accusing somebody of something, not being man enough to come see them. So I knew he had the letter and I asked him, I said, well, I'll come down and see you now. Well, I'm not home. Well, how do you know you got the letter? Well, my wife got the letter and read it to me. And it was nowhere construed the way it was supposed to be construed. So those are the things that worry me. One of the things we talked about with Jeff was payroll tax withholdings, and I gave you guys a letter of that. The city of Choteau is not going to participate in the payroll tax break. We're going to continue to hold payroll tax out of everybody, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump, I guess, but they're going to continue to do that because I don't want to hold them out now and then take them again after the first year is required and short them that way. The other thing we talked about were cultural review requirements. As you know, at our public hearing for our PER hearing for the sewer lines, there had been made mention that the Little Shell tribe had some concerns. The Little Shell tribe of the Chippewa Cree Indians of Montana have recommended a Class 3 cultural resource inventory of the proposed City of Choteau wastewater improvement project areas to the proposed water and sewage improvements with a focus on Little Shell tribe Anishinaabe Métis cultural sites. This was a monkey wrench because the National Historic Preservation Office, along with the State Historic Preservation Offices, have always said pre-excavated land is excluded from these types of studies. This is a relatively young, federally recognized tribe, and they are flexing some muscle and trying to get this done.
can you explain what the level 3?
It would be every piece of property within the city limits of Choteau, personal, private, and public, to see if there was anything culturally relative to the Métis tribe having been through Choteau. a success, one of these could run anywhere, a simple one could be $5,000 to $7,000. If a more elaborate one,
Per
if-
site,
what's that?
per,
No, for that study.
oh,
But
okay,
if inside, that's a study area.
gotcha.
But if inside that study area, if they were to find something of cultural and historical, it would blossom. It could be 6 figures easy.
Okay.
And in worst case scenario, it would require the city of Choteau to have a cultural engineer on staff. So that when someone public, Mike, the public works, or you privately wanted to go out and dig in your yard, you weren't disturbing anything that was culturally sensitive.
So that $5,000 to $7,000 is the city's responsibility?
Oh, yes.
Okay, got it.
As part of the-
So is this something that, so go back and you said they sent these to us and they were flexing a little bit.
Because
So I get that. So where do we go? from
we
here?
cannot proceed with getting our applications approved and put in until this is settled.
Until we address it in one way or another.
So this is a letter to Senator Daines, a letter to Representative Gianforte, and a letter to Senator Tester, expressing my frustrations with this. And I got a response. I've talked to all of them in person, their staff. Senator Daines' office called back today and said that the chairman of the Little Shell Tribe will be reaching out to me tomorrow or the next day to discuss. But from the national level, the national USDA rural development folks have said that this is a moot point. They view it as pre-excavated property, pre-excavated land, and that they have no right to ask for this. So we told, that's been passed on to Colette, and those applications are being wrapped up and getting processed out and sent to the people to get funding going. This could have been a potentially huge issue. We could have had it, or should it stick, we would have been forced to either do the study or give up our federal grant dollars and federal loan dollars and go back to other funding sources, which would have cost us upwards of another $500,000
Or litigate.
or litigate it, which could have cost another, just, yeah, so. Hopefully we've got some resolution here. City Hall's been a little jumpy lately. We've had a couple incidents at City Hall yesterday. I had a gentleman removed twice. And I've sent an email to the sheriff's office, to the city attorneys, and asked that that man be banned from our building. He's not a resident of the city of Choteau. He owes no taxes, pays no taxes in Choteau according to cadastral. And he's not paying a bill. He's got no reason to be at City Hall other than to cause problems. And it's creating huge amount of stress between Jody, Tracy, and Tom. I'm concerned for them. So I will meet with Keith again and see if we can't get that put in place to have him barred from that building. It goes back to nobody should be able to come in there and yell at those staffers. If anyone's going to get yelled at, it should be me or one of you four who, like me, put our name on the ballot to do this. There's very little that Jody, Tom, and Tracy can do worth yelling at them for, other than potentially run off good employees. So that fight is just underway, and that one would be another one where I'm sure the court will have to get involved to get that taken care of. As I mentioned earlier in the report, Thursday is supposed to be the day for Ed's wall to be down. We'll be into court the following week with asking for the court relief to get that taken down. And it'll go back to District Judge Olson, and part of that will be, not only does the wall have to come down, but the driveway's got to be addressed, because the driveway is slanted and creates an ADA problem for, the boulevard. Okay. He was not very friendly with me when we had that conversation. Was stunned that Choteau was not progressive enough to let him keep it up. But needless to say, I expect him to find a way to get back into court again. And I don't know how he would, but because he'd have to go back before the judge who already ruled against him. So that being said, that's where we're at. The last thing I want to put on you guys' radar is November's first meeting. It's supposed to be November 3rd. It's a federal holiday. So I would ask that we move to the 4th. Just, we'll go to Wednesday rather than Tuesday.
Okay. I can make that work.
You have,
I have church on Wednesday.
yeah. It's a federal holiday and I don't want to bring Jody and Tom in
Election night and
on a
Oh,
day
I can make
off,
it work.
yeah.
Yep. Election day.
Election day. Every presidential one's every presidential holiday or a presidential election is a federal
How
holiday.
did I miss that?
It's not on TV or anything.
No, it's not.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm tired.
With that, I have nothing more. We're gonna have a 3-week break till our next meeting.
Public comment.
Any public comment out there, you guys? Pete? See you over there grinding gears.
Somebody's.
We will meet October 6th at 6:30 PM. And I think we'll continue to go here for the time being. Okay,
Move to adjourn.
we're out of here. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Devin. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I was gonna take your